Hello, College of the Desert students. Welcome today. Welcome to our yoga flow. I have 2 blocks and a strap nearby. It's wonderful to have you guys here today. We have a challenging and well-rounded flow. Today, our theme is the yoga flow for inner fire. Inner fire, also known as tapas. In Sanskrit, inner fire represents tapas. I started researching one of the core and arm balances that we're going to do today, and it shared with me that this cultivated personal power, warrior energy, and self-esteem. And I thought to myself, that sounds like tapas, inner fire. So I wanted to share that with you guys. So if we look at the definition of tapas, we often find inner fire, a discipline, a burning enthusiasm, a passion. And yogis or yoginis, that's a woman who practices yoga, knows that the more that they practice yoga, they cultivate the tapas. Often that gets us on the 4 corners of our mat. It just simply feels good to challenge ourselves and learn. But we also know that core work and arm balances stokes that inner fire. The Agni, often it's also referred to the fire, that inner fire, the tapas, that energy. And we're going to do that today. Tapas. We need tapas in kind of all that inner fire in all dimensions of our life. If we look at the physical, which we get with our yoga practice, the mental aspect and a spiritual aspect. And we can't deny that often when we practice yoga, our outlook on life is also better. But we also can find that spiritual aspect, the tapas, sometimes it's the discipline, right? The discipline to take time to our spiritual health, to connect within, to to read work that inspires us, to take time to meditate. Prayer, what does that look like to us? Okay, I wanted to share that with you. Tapas on the mat, right? The challenge, that zeal, that passion. And off the mat, our outlook on life, this inner discipline, this inner devotion helps us face obstacles in our life. Tapas, Agni, the inner fire here, tapas, that inner heat, is also known, this is pretty cool, to burn away negative impurities. So what does that mean? You know the negative thoughts, those negative emotions that we all struggle and balance with? Tapas help burn that away, just so you know that, right? And with that, the more that we practice, the more that we have time for ourselves and practice with intention, the more that we build upon self-trust and inner strength. I think that's pretty powerful. I wanted to share that with you. Another ancient yoga teacher used to say, in terms of tapas, inner fire, inner heat, passion, it takes devotion, dedication, discipline, and determination. Those are the 4 Ds that he said that accompany our yoga practice. It's yoga practice, not yoga perfect. Okay, hey, here we are in the 4 corners of our mat here. Let's start with a wide-legged child's pose, Prasarita Balasana. Big toes touching, widen the knees, make room for the torso. Walk those hands forward, sending those hips back, creating length in the spine, trying to rest the chest or forehead to the ground or the block. I like to visualize my spine lengthening and connect with my breath as I inhale and exhale through the nose, calming the mind. a time to reflect within and cultivate that spiritual connection. Arms are lengthening, the spine is lengthening. It's a little hip opener. Let's move into a lateral flexion of the spine as we walk the hands over to the right, feeling that left side of the body opening. Continue to inhale and exhale through the nose, calming the mind and just kind of appreciating the posture here. Truly being present. And we're going to walk the hands now over to the left. I like to keep my hands about shoulder width apart. Continuing to draw the chest and the forehead towards the ground here as I'm opening the right side body. And continue to walk the hands back into the middle here and just maybe reach forward a few more inches. Send those hips back several breaths as you allow the outer arms to kind of soften. The armpits are opening. We are preparing for our practice. Coming into a tabletop pose, the hands come under the shoulders, the knees come under the hips. Beautiful. We draw the belly towards the spine here. Let's connect. I wanted to share with you guys, a lot of the movement comes from the tailbone. If you notice, my tailbone is lifted, my tailbone comes under, and this is going to help us guide and exaggerate the movement as we explore this cat and cow. I also like to sometimes play around with the feet here. So we'll tuck the toes, tailbone is lifting, drop the belly, gaze up. On the exhale, we push into the tops of the feet, tailbone comes under, we exaggerate that rounding of the spine. Good. Inhale, tuck the toes, tailbone is lifted, drop the belly, gaze up. Exhale, push through the tops of the feet. Tailbone is under. Exaggerate that rounding of the spine. Good. Continue. Tuck those toes. Inhale, tailbone lifted. Shoulder blades come toward the spine. Exhale, push through the tops of the feet. Round that back. Just enjoy the spinal mobility. Good. Tuck those toes. Tailbone lifting. Good. Lower the belly. Gaze up. Exhale, exaggerate as you draw that tailbone under, round the back. Good. One more cycle. Connect with the breath. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Come into just a neutral tabletop here. Let's come into a little wrist warm up here, a part of the hand dance. We're going to rock forward and back, putting weight on into those wrists. Good. Fingers move away from one another. The hands are directly under the shoulders, and we're rocking forward and back. If you want to connect with the breath, sometimes we just kind of inhale as we come forward and exhale as we come back, putting a little bit of weight on into the wrist, preparing our wrists for our vigorous practice. And now fingers come towards one another. We're rocking forward and back. Good. I like to pick up the heel of my hands and come onto my fingers, the breaks of my hands, because we're going to come on and work those hands today as we explore this challenging practice. Let's do one more. And now fingers come towards one another, and let's just rock forward and back. Good. Here we are, our tabletop pose. Let's tuck those toes. Let's walk the hands a few inches. Find our way in our first dynamic down dog. Let's heel and toe it. Heel and toe. The hands are about shoulder width apart. The feet are about hip width apart. And as we explore this dynamic movement, we're just preparing for our practice. Good. Static hold. Let's press into the palms, spread those fingers. Draw length in the spine and breathe into any stiffness and any pain. I like to firm those thighs, press them back and up. Good. Enjoying this down dog. I like to feel that two lines of energy. It's that spot before the lower back where the spine is moving towards my hands and the lower back then is moving down the hamstrings, the calves towards the ground. So gravity is coming in two directions, a beautiful gift of yoga. Plank rolls. We're drawing the tailbone under, belly towards the spine. Simply draw the shoulders over the wrists, gaze forward and down. On the exhale, send those hips back, Adho Mukha. The inhale, draw the belly towards the spine, shoulders over the wrists. Exhale, send those hips back. Beautiful Adho Mukha. Inhale, draw the belly towards the spine, shoulders over the wrists. Exhale, send those hips back. One more time, belly towards the spine, shoulders over the wrists, gaze forward and down. We'll stay here several breaths, core awakening. Gently lower the knees, meeting ourselves where we are. If we ever need to modify a pose or take a time out or take a wide-legged child's pose, meet yourself, allow yourself some grace. Big toes touching, widen the knees. Let's do a Prasarita Balasana, wide-legged child's pose again. So I like to walk those arms forward, creating length in the spine, and then send those hips back. Again, kind of the spine moving in two directions here. Reflect within, close those eyes, and just enjoy this posture. Preparing for our practice. Gently come out of this pose. Let's come into tabletop. Hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Good. Belly towards the spine. Let's tuck those toes, exaggerate, lowering the belly. Gazing up, tailbone is lifted. Exhale, exaggerate, pushing away. Tailbone comes under, rounding of the spine. Inhale, gently lower the belly, gaze up. Exhale, push to the tops of the feet, tailbone under, exaggerate that rounding, good. Inhale, gaze up, tailbone lifted. Exhale, exaggerate the rounding of the spine, this beautiful spinal mobility. One more, inhale. Exhale. Come into a neutral tabletop again, belly towards the spine. Let's take the tops of the hands as we explore a little more wrist mobility. Now the fingers are pointed towards you. Let's shift side to side. If you want to connect with the breath, maybe it's kind of an inhale to the right, exhale to the left. Good. Coming on to a little bit of wrist strength, wrist mobility. And now let's do the fingers towards one another and just kind of shift side to side. Good. And fingers move away from one another and just shift side to side. Good. Back to our tabletop. Tuck those toes, walk those hands forward a few inches, lead with those hips, come into our Adho Mukha downward dog. As you push that floor away, you're lengthening the spine and trying to get the heels towards the ground. Send light and love to any stiffness and any pain. Plank rolls. Drawing the tailbone under, belly towards the spine. Exaggerate the shoulders over the wrists. Gaze forward and down. Exhale, send those hips back. Good. Plank roll. Come forward, shoulders over the wrists. Exhale, send those hips back. Downward dog. Draw the belly towards the spine. Big inhale, shoulders over the wrists. Exhale, send those hips back. One more time, come into that plank roll. Let's stay here several breaths, building upon core strength. Active legs, active shoulders, active core. Send those hips back. Here we have our downward facing dog. Preparing for our low lunge transition here. Feet come together. Big inhale. Let's draw the left leg up to about hip height. Left leg straight and engaged, toes pointed down. On the exhale, let's coil. Let's draw the knee towards the nose. Place the left foot next to the left hand. Lower the back knee to the ground. Press to the tops of the feet of the back foot. We're going to rock forward and back. Big inhale. Let's kind of scissor those hips together, releasing the back hip, yet drawing length in the spine. Anjaneyasana, the low lunge. Let's add a little bit of a back bend and a twist. We're going to keep that right arm up. Lower the left hand to the base of the spine or outside of that right leg. Little bit of a back bend, little bit of a twist. Find the breath. Beautiful. Hands to the hips. Let's come out of this pose, runner's pose. Back leg straight and engaged. Press into the palms. Find your way back to downward facing dog. Feet come together as we prepare for that low lunge transition, Anjaneyasana. Inhale, draw that right leg up about hip height. Right leg straight and engaged. Mindfully round that back, draw the right knee to the chest and the nose. Place the right foot next to the right hand, lower the left knee to the ground. Good, hands to the hips. Let's rock forward and back. Good. Big inhale as we press through the top of the back foot, root through the four corners of the front foot. Draw length in the spine. The torso is directly over the hips and feel a release of that back hip. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Adding a back bend with a slight twist. We'll keep that left arm up. Right hand to either the base of the spine or outside of that left thigh. Beautiful Anjaneyasana. The birds are singing. And we are moving to preserve the body. Gently release to a runner's pose, hands to the hips, frame the foot. Press into the palms. Let's find our way into Adho Mukha down dog. Let's set ourselves up here. Arms shoulder width apart, feet about hip width apart. If the shoulders are tight, we might widen the arms a bit and even turn the palms outward a bit. Good. If our hamstrings are tight, we might gently bend the knees, meet ourselves where we are. Let's adjust the gaze now. The gaze towards the feet or the legs or maybe even the navel for some of us. Use the breath and gently lower the heels closer to the ground. Gently lower to the knees. Let's sit back in a Vajrasana, a thunderbolt pose. So this is good. See how we're sitting back on our feet, which are kind of in a form of plantar flexion. If this is challenging or hurts you, you can widen the feet a bit and sit on a block. I think I'm gonna just face you guys here. Good, coming to the center of my mat here. Awesome. This is good just for several things. It's just good to kind of sit like this, again, on our feet. But let's add a little shoulder work here. So we're going to interlace those fingers and try to draw the hands towards one another, palms towards one another, shoulder blades towards the spine, and broaden the collarbones because we're in a little shoulder therapy here. We'll stay here several breaths. Connect within. Gently release. Gomukhasana arms. Sometimes I like to explore the arms one at a time here. Draw that right arm up as I mirror you here. And you're going to guide the right fingertips down the spine, resting the back of the head and the upper arm. Good. Think of the fingertips coming towards the spine. This is really good for shoulder health, shoulder mobility. Let's find our breath and simply be present and stay here several breaths. Good. Feeling those shoulders opening. Gently release. Taking the left arm, drawing the thumb towards us, and maybe help guiding it up the spine between the scapula here. So this is the exact opposite internal rotation here of the other arm. And we'll just stay here several breaths, kind of rolling that shoulder back and continue to have the fingers come up the spine. Gently release. Let's take your left arm up here. Good. Guide the fingertips down the spine. So pretty. Rest the back of the head on the upper arm, and then we're just shoulder therapy, taking care of ourselves. Gently release. Let's take the right arm, thumb, coming up the spine. Roll those shoulders back. Stay here several breaths. Gently release. We'll just take a moment, reflect back on our intention, tapas, inner fire, discipline, that burning enthusiasm, that passion. Take a moment, lower your head to your fingertips, and reflect upon the gifts of that inner fire in our lives. Take a moment to encourage yourself. Breathe into that inner fire. And set your own intention of your practice. Gently look up. Good. Here we are. We're going to stoke the Agni, the inner fire. Hero? There we go. Dandasana. We're going to come from Dandasana and do some warm-up drills that ignite our core and a little bit of an arm balance known as the L-sit, Brahmacharyasana. We're going to start the blocks outside the knee, Dandasana. Root through the sitting bones, sit nice and tall. outer edges of the feet come towards us. It comes from this area. We're going to take, as I mirror you here, we're going to take, the blocks are right outside the knees here. We're going to take that left leg and draw it over the block and back. If you don't have a block, you're going to pretend like you have one. You're going to wish you had one because it's going to help us. Good. We're going to go back and forth. Yeah, beautiful. And now we're going to take that right leg. Let's root back into Dandasana. Let's take this right leg now and draw it back and forth over the block. Really isolating and strengthening that hip flexor. Little bit of heat there. Good. And now we're going to take maybe the blocks a little higher if you want to challenge. And I know some of us, maybe we haven't done this before, so you can keep the blocks lower. Meet yourself where we are. We're challenging ourselves. Trying is doing. And I hope this motivates you to practice outside of this class. Taking the left leg, draw it back and forth. Beautiful. Let's take the right leg, draw it back and forth. Beautiful. Come back to Dandasana. Now let's explore elements of this L-sit, this ancient yoga pose, the connection of the core to lift those hips, the core and the quadriceps to lift those hips. And with that, when we engage and lift those hips, the shoulders come forward a bit. So blocks outside kind of the hips, the upper thighs. On the exhale, drawing the belly towards the spine, engaging the core, lifting those hips. We'll keep the heels on the ground for now. Notice the shoulders are coming forward. Good. And lower. Good. Let's do this again. Engaging the core. Let's press down. Exhale. Engaging the core. Lifting those hips. Good. Shoulders come forward. Nice. Many of us are going to meet ourselves. We're just going to stay where we are. But if you can, let's work on getting the heels off the ground. Root nice and tall. Draw the belly towards the spine. Big exhale. Lift. Heels off the ground. Engaging those quadriceps. Good. This posture really kind of changed my life and helped me with so many arm balances that I try to practice this several days a week. Igniting the tapas, igniting that inner fire. Let's add a little bit of preparation more here as we're going to explore some other postures. Let's take the feet a little wider than hip width apart, 1 inch wider. As I mirror you here, we'll start with your left leg. And we're going to explore Utthita Hindulasana, cradle pose. Awaken the outer edge, awaken the arch of that left foot, I want to say. And we're going to kind of clasp between the elbows. Let's do a little dynamic. Good. Dynamic exploration. Both feet are awake here on this, activating both arches. Till eventually, finding that static hold. Drawing the shin towards the chest and feeling that release of the outer hip and the lower back. Connect with that breath inside, the value of the posture. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Beautiful release of the outer hip and the lower back. This moves on to compass pose, meeting ourselves where we are, another major and complete body opener, shoulder, hamstring, hip, torso. Clasping the outer edge of that left foot. We're drawing that left shoulder under the left knee. It's like we're pressing the shoulder inside against this left leg and trying to kind of gaze Take that gaze as we open the side body, open that torso, and gaze up towards the sky. It's magical. Beautiful release. Here we are, trunk of the elephant and arm balance. So we're keeping the shoulder over the knee, the left shoulder over the left knee. We're going to press into the blocks and use the arms to engage the core. Eka Asta Bhujasana. Here we go. Press down and lift. Stay here several breaths. Good. Gently lower. Release. Remember that pose that I talked about, that personal power, the warrior energy, the self-esteem? We just did it. And you can do it with practice. This is where balance and strength meet each other. Let's take the feet a little bit, an inch wider than hip width apart. Let's draw now the right heel towards us. Cradle pose, awaken the arch of both feet really, but let's clasp between those elbows and do a little dynamic exploration here. Till eventually root through the sitting bones and think about drawing the shin towards the chest. Creating length in the spine, yet opening the outer right hip and releasing the lower back a bit. Connect to that breath. Be present. This pose helps prepare us for our practice. Wedging now, compass pose. So we're going to wedge, clasp outer edge here of this left foot and kind of draw that shoulder under the knee. This is where we're pressing the arm against the leg here, but yet coming into this compass pose here and eventually gazing up towards the sky and connecting open shoulders, open hips, open torso, spine relief. Stay here several breaths. Gently release, trunk of the elephant here. Here we have the right shoulder under the right knee, and we're going to press down into the blocks and lift. On the exhale, let's take those arms and engage the core and lift those legs. We'll stay here several breaths. Good. Gently release. Something to practice. Let's just do one more. We'll hang out here for a few breaths, but we'll do one more L-sit, pulling on the magic of that core strength, connecting to our arms and legs. On the exhale, engage the core, lift those hips, draw the shoulders forward, engage those quadriceps. Gently lower. Tapas, inner fire. Woo! We're going to take the blocks to maybe the top third of the mat here. Allow them to be shoulder width apart so we can explore some chaturangas from here. Taking the heel of the hands, we're going to continue and ignite this personal power, this warrior energy, this self-esteem. We're going to ignite that fire within us. Trying is doing. Here we are, Adho Mukha, downward dog. Firming those thighs, connecting to the entire body. Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1 on the left side. We're drawing the left knee towards the nose, placing the left foot next to the left hand. We're going to angle that back foot. It's either a heel to heel or maybe a little bit wider. The back foot's about like a 45-degree angle. Hands to those hips. It's a steering wheel. Good. A steering wheel of the body here. Front hip, back hip forward. Press outer edge of the back foot. Feel that inner thigh spiraling back. If the shoulders are tight, we can keep shoulder width apart. Or draw those palms together, straighten those arms. Find your drishti. Inhale, draw length. Exhale, sink lower. Open those hips. Gently lower those hands to the hips, to the blocks as we frame the feet. Find our way back to downward dog. We can either stay in down dog if we're tired, or we can add a vinyasa, phalakasana plank. On the exhale, bend those elbows, draw the sternum and the chest forward. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha, upward facing dog. Press through the tops of the feet, active legs. Press through the palms, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, come over the tops of the feet, downward dog. Good. Let's do a cleansing breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Warrior one on the right side, draw the right knee towards the nose, place the right foot next to the right hand. Let's angle that back foot. Some of us think like the toes towards that left front corner. Good. Hands to the hips. Good. The steering wheel of the spine, front hip, back hip forward. Inhale, draw those arms up. Continue to connect with that breath. Inhale, we create length. Exhale, sink lower. Continue to press outer edge of that back foot to feel the inner thigh spiral of the back leg. That helps draw that back hip forward. And the front thigh is parallel towards the ground. Gently release. Hands to the hips. Frame the foot. Downward dog. You can hang out here if you're tired, or we're going to generate a little more heat. Phalakasana plank. Dome the upper back. Bend those elbows. Chaturanga Dandasana, gazing forward and down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Shimmy the pelvis forward. Broaden the collarbones. Feel the inner thighs kind of spiral back. Tips of the lower shoulder blades come through the heart. Exhale, downward dog. Beautiful. Sometimes downward dog almost feels like a rest, like a reset. Walking the feet towards those hands. We're going to do a forward fold with a twist. So the feet are a few inches away from the block, maybe about 6 inches here. We're going to bend the right leg, press that right palm into the block, and let's grow the left arm over the right shoulder, Uttanasana, with a little spinal twist. Gently release. And let's press that left, let's bend that left leg, pressing that left palm into the block, growing this little twist, right arm up. Draw the heart towards the sky. So much value then. Gently release. Just kind of reset in that Uttanasana, the forward fold. Allow the neck to be long. Feel that release of the entire backside body. Gently bend the knees. Inhale, Swanadeva. Upward salute. Exhale, hands, heart centered. Inner fire. Good. We're going to gently maybe remove the blocks. Let's keep maybe one out. Let's come to the center of the mat here. And some of us might use the block. We might even use a strap if that helps us explore Malasana with a little bit of a bind here. So the feet are a little wider than hip width apart. Heels in, toes out. This is known as prayer squat, this version of Malasana. Activate, a little wider than hip width apart. This is so good for opening up those hips. Heels in, toes out. If you have a block behind you, you might want to sit on that block if you have a difficult time with this pose. Meeting yourself where we are, trying is doing. All of us have these anatomical areas where certain postures are easier than others. Inhale, gather that energy up. Exhale, begin to sink lower. Maybe sit onto the block for some of you if that helps you. If you don't need that block, you might move away. Elbows inside the knee to draw length in the spine. I like to connect with the breath here. The inhale, I can feel the prana rising from the tailbone through the crown of my head. With the exhale, I can feel the prana, the life force, coming back down the spine. 2 lines of energy here, even the sitting bones coming towards the ground. Crown of the head coming into just that vertical lengthening. We can stay here, we can grow the pose a bit. Where as I mirror you here, the left arm comes in front of the left shin. The right arm comes up. If the neck bothers you, you may gaze down, or you can gaze up if it does not bother you. Eventually, even adding the bind as we take the right hand by the sacrum. And eventually, interlace those fingers, soften the shoulders. Heart is coming towards the sky, leveraging that torso rotation. The birds are singing. The pose has evolved. Transition back to Malasana, and we do variations because there's all different levels. But many of us are just meeting ourselves where we are. This is the heart of the pose. If we want a variety, we can draw the right arm in front of the shin and simply that left arm up. Left hand by that sacrum. And eventually, taking the right arm, interlacing those fingers, softening the shoulders. The pose has come full circle with the bind. Gently release, Malasana. Press inside, elbows inside the knees. Connect with the prana, the life force. Inhale, root and rise. Woo! Awesome. Heel, let's kind of come back together here in our Tadasana. Let's do a cleansing breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Let's add a vinyasa. If we have our blocks, let's set them up. If we don't have our blocks, that's okay. Right? But the blocks sometimes give us a little bit of a dimension, a little bit of a heightened increase. Here we are in Tadasana. What does that look like? Awaken those arches, spread those toes. Even roll those shoulders back, belly towards the spine. Stand tall, stand proud. Inhale, gather that energy up, upward salute. Lift the lower ribs away from the pelvis. Belly towards the spine, shoulders away from those ears. Energy out the fingertips. With the exhale, we're gonna swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel the spine moving in 2 directions. The crown of the head come forward, the tailbone is lifted. Let's place the hands in the center of the blocks. Let's step back to plank here. Right away, engaging that core. Good. Doming that upper back. If you have chaturanga, you can modify by lowering to the knees or bend those elbows, draw that sternum and chest forward, shoulder in line with the elbows. Try not to let the shoulders drop. Press to the tops of the feet. As we transition, gaze up, look up, Urdhva Mukha. Arm balance and a back bend. Exhale, downward dog. Heels a little closer towards the ground. Walk the feet towards those hands. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Release the backside body. Gently bend the knees. Swan dive up, upward salute. Exhale, hands, heart centered. Becomes a little dance, the movements that we do. We're going to keep one block out as we are going to explore Parshvottanasana, pyramid pose. So the block will be there to help us find our alignment and form. We're going to step that right leg back a little bit shorter than a full leg length, a few inches shorter. The back foot is kind of about 60 degrees, enough for us to get both hips facing forward. Some of us may have to kind of widen that foot, that back foot, to get both hips facing forward. Good. Belly comes towards the spine. We're going to explore reverse prayer, Paschimma Namaskara, which is so good for the shoulders, upper back, and carpal tunnel here. We'll start with drawing, and we're going to meet ourselves where we are. Left arm comes into reverse prayer. Right arm meets it. If you need to do a fist bump or simply clasp elbow to elbow, we can. Try to work on palm alignment and those fingertips coming between the scapula. Press outer edge of the back foot, root through the four corners of the front foot, belly towards the spine. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. Here we are, half pyramid. So release those hands, come to the block here. This is where we're gonna come into alignment. Come more to that left midfoot, good. Draw that front hip almost kind of up and back, the back hip forward. Imagine those inner thighs touching here. We're trying to level the pelvis. Many of us will stay here, or some of us might deepen this expression. Continuing to kind of level the pelvis more to the midfoot of the front foot. But draw the crown of the head forward, sternum and chest coming towards the shin. On the transition, belly towards the spine, sweep those arms forward. Inhale, root and rise. Hands to the hips, step forward, Tadasana, cleansing breath. Inhale. Exhale. Your balance might be challenged as we transition in and out of the postures, and that is good. You are challenging yourself. I challenge myself. I practice a lot, but I want you guys to know I fall in and out of postures every single practice, and I notice muscular imbalances in areas that I need to practice and improve upon. Stepping that left leg back. Right leg is pointed straight ahead here. Good. If we need to widen that left foot, we can. Belly towards the spine. Press outer edge of that back foot. We want to try to get both hips, the ASIS bones, facing forward as bony landmarks. Take that right hand and let's work on that reverse prayer. Maybe it's a fist pump. Maybe it's clasping elbow to elbow. Paschimma Namaskara. Beautiful. Roll the shoulder back, palm alignment. Feel the release of the shoulders, the upper back, and healing for carpal tunnel. Many of us that type a lot. Press outer edge of the back foot, root through the four corners of the front foot, belly towards the spine. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, begin to come forward. Here we are, a little bit of a half pyramid. Maybe come a little bit lower. Eventually releasing the arms, coming to the block, coming more to the midfoot of the right foot. How do we level that pelvis? Think of the inner thighs touching. Come more to the right midfoot. Front hip is kind of coming up and back hip is coming forward. We'll stay here several breaths. Gently, maybe many of us will stay here, but some of us might be exploring at a deeper level as we walk those hands back. Think of the crown of the head coming forward, sternum and chest coming over that shin. Draw the belly towards the spine, sweep those arms forward. Inhale, root and rise. Hands to the hips, Tadasana. Cleansing breath, inhale, exhale. We're gonna take those blocks and set them up another about shoulder width apart. We're gonna come to the back edge of our mat. We're gonna explore extended lunge. So we're gonna challenge our lunge a little bit by coming into a form that helps us release the back hip a bit. So here we are, kind of towards maybe the back edge of our mat. Feet about hip width apart, maybe an inch or so wider. Inhale, gather that energy up. Let's do that upward salute. Belly towards the spine, lower ribs away from the pelvis. Maybe drawing that tailbone under just slightly. On the exhale, we're going to gently swan dive down, walk the hands forward till the heel of the hands come onto the blocks as we adjust ourselves into Adho Mukha, downward dog. The magical extended low lunge. Draw the left knee towards the nose. We're placing the left foot past the knee here. Okay, trying to. At meeting ourselves where we are. I have the blocks here. We can even take the blocks up a little higher if that helps some of us, but just be careful with those wrists, very careful. Here we are, we extended the slow lunge. The goal is to release the back hips. Why? Because we're gonna explore back bends. And I want those hips open. And just because this is so good for us, we'll stay here several breaths. Allowing that extended lunge to release the back hip. Maybe even push away just slightly. Ardha Anamanasana, half splits. Send those hips back. Press through the heel of that extended leg. The sternum and chest is coming forward. As we press to the heel, I want you to feel the awakening of those hamstrings before we prepare for our splits. Meeting ourselves where we are now. Allow that left heel to come forward. What does the splits look like? Meet yourself, challenge yourself. I have the splits in my practice because I enjoy the many gifts of yoga, and it naturally comes probably a little tiny bit easier. But through devotion, dedication, discipline, and determination, I've practiced and I have enjoyed postures such as Anamanasana. We'll stay here several breaths, maybe lower another inch or so. If you have the splits, you might even draw those arms up. Never get discouraged. The gift is stepping on the four corners of your mat and practicing. The gift of movement. Tucking the back toes, drawing the heels back. Finding our way, maybe adjusting the blocks a bit in our downward dog. We have a guest appearance of Elvis. Hi, Elvis. Drawing the right knee towards the nose as we explore this extended lunge. The foot comes past the knee here. Good, and maybe adjusting the blocks a bit. So we're getting the back hip towards the ground. Good. Feel that release of the back hip flexors. It's okay to close those eyes and truly be present. Sending the hips back, pressing through that right heel, awakening the hamstrings. Good. Feeling the release of the right hamstrings. Good. And now explore Anamanasana, where the right heel comes forward. You're meeting yourself where you are. For many of us, it's here today. Eventually sinking in as we stay here, I don't know, a while, and maybe coming in another inch or so, reaping the many benefits of Anamanasana. Energetically, we press to the top of the back foot. We draw that front hip back. We draw that back hip forward. We create length in the spine, and we use the breath here to stay calm in this challenging posture. Maybe we draw those arms up. Coming out of this pose, tucking the back foot, engaging the core, pressing through into the blocks to draw that heel back. And adjust those blocks as we find our way into another downward facing dog. Pushing that floor away, creating length in the spine. Gently lower to the knees. Let's do a wide-legged child's pose while we have this block set up. Big toes touching, widen the knees, hands onto the blocks here. Trying to lower the chest and the forehead towards the ground. Lightly draw the chin towards you. Stay here several breaths. Just kind of reset here. Gently come out of this pose. We're going to practice. This is a well-rounded flow here, and we want to practice some back bends, meeting ourselves where we are. Setu Bandha, Sarvangasana, glute bridge is a magical posture to connect and build strength in the back side of the body. It is so good for you. Glute bridge. So here we are in a supine position. The feet are about hip width apart. They're parallel, but I like to actually kind of rotate the big toes in just slightly. Good. On the inhale, we're going to lift those hips. We can all place those hands on the hips at first. Good. And just feel that lifting of the hips. If some of us have glute bridge, we can interlace the fingers, shrug the shoulders a bit, and continue to lift those hips, sacrum towards the knees, and also the sternum and chest close to the chin, but yet the chin away from the chest. With the breath, we feel on the inhale, the lengthening, the opening here of the back bend. Good. Continue to root on the exhale with the feet. Good. Connecting to the ground, building strength in the posterior chain. To come out of this pose, I like to draw the arms over the head, releve up, and lower one vertebrae at a time. Let's do another Setu Bandha, Sarvangasana, glute bridge, feet hip width apart. Rotate the big toes in slightly. We want to keep the knees in line with the hips, not the knees going out. Big inhale, either hands to the hips or interlace the fingers so we come to the outer edges of the hands. Shrug the shoulders. Feel those inner thighs spiraling down, knees in line with the hips. Shrug the shoulders, broaden the collarbones. Keep lifting the hips, tailbone towards the knee. Sternum and chest towards the chin. And lightly draw the belly in to support the lumbar spine. Stay here several breaths. Draw the arms over the head, releve up, and gently lower one vertebrae at a time. Yogi's choice, you can practice that again. You can take a knees to chest afterwards, or you can practice Urdhva Dhanurasana, the bridge's sister here. This is an amazing pose, and I'll maybe demonstrate just slightly. My feet are a few inches away from the glutes, parallel, but let's rotate those big toes in slightly. Same thing. We want to keep the knees in line with the hips, and we want to keep the elbows kind of in line with the shoulders here as we set up. The fingers are coming towards the shoulders. With the inhale, I'm pressing down, maybe come to the crown of the head at first lightly until I build that strength to come into this pose. Trying to get the shoulders over the wrists. It's okay to come up on the balls of the feet because we're really expanding across the upper back, opening the chest and continuing to lift those hips. To come out of that pose, I gently kind of bend the arms and legs, maybe gently lower the head towards the ground and continue this dynamic expression here. So I'm going to give you 2 more times now, yogi's choice. Glute bridge or upward bow. Practice. Couple minutes, yogi's practice. I'm exploring Urdhva Dhanurasana. My hands are towards the shoulders. My feet are hip width apart, rotating those big toes in. Elbows outside of the ears here. Big inhale, and I'm lifting up. As I explore deeper in this pose, I walk my hands towards my feet. My belly still supports the navel. I'm expanding across the upper back. Where does the back bend come? It comes from the heart. The hips are still lifted, but the back bend is expanding across the upper back in the heart, opening the front side body. Gently coming out of this pose. Yogi's choice. One more. Glute bridge or Urdhva Dhanurasana, upward bow. My hands are towards the shoulder and upward bow. My feet are hip width apart. Rotate those big toes in slightly. On the inhale, and I build upon the strength of the arms and the legs to lift that spine. To kind of lift those hips, lower, middle, upper back, expand across the upper heart. Open the chest and the heart. When you get more advanced, we start to walk the hands towards the feet and feel the deep opening of the heart. The breath is there to find balance. Gently lower. How do we neutralize the spine? Let's start with Apanasana. Knees towards the chest. Beautiful. When we come in the knees towards the chest here, guys, we're thinking about the tailbone coming towards the ground. Just neutralizing the spine from those back bends. Somehow we might have reflect back on our flow today and realize we want to keep working those back bends. That's where tapas comes into play. We want to feel good. Back bends are energizing. Lying down, spinal twist. We'll guide both knees here towards the left. Let's stack the knees and the feet on top of one another. Let's place the left hand on the right knee and extend that right arm from the shoulder. Pressing that floor away, gazing over the right shoulder towards the ground as we feel that release in the upper and the middle back. Gently release. We have our lying down spinal twist on the other side. I'm going to just kind of adjust myself a bit. Guiding both knees towards the right. Knees are stacked and the feet are stacked right on top of one another. Good. Right hand is on the left knee and we're pressing that left palm into the ground. The palm is in line with the shoulders. Left shoulder towards the ground, and this is where the gaze and the breath help us release the upper and the middle back. Gently release. Draw the knees towards the chest, Apanasana, the wind relieving pose, as we draw length in the spine. Tailbone towards the ground, recenter. This is part of tapas. The dedication to explore the postures that are good for us. Reclined, forward fold. Here we are lying on our backs. What does that look like to us? Maybe some of us even utilize a strap. I like to take my hands to the hamstrings, the calves. The goal is to get the toes towards the ground, the tailbone towards the ground, and just feel a release in the entire backside body. Sending light, sending love to any areas that are a little bit tighter. Again, toes coming towards the ground, tailbone towards the ground, the spine moving in two directions. Extended happy baby. What is extended happy baby? Well, we can do a regular happy baby where we bend the knees, we open up the hips. Or we practice clasping outer edges of the feet here. Regular happy baby we can modify by the thighs here. I like to clasp outer edges and come into an extended happy baby here where both legs are straight. Opening up the inner adductors, the groin, and also tailbone towards the ground. Breathing into any stiffness, any pain. We'll stay here several breaths. Again, tailbone towards the ground. Breathing into the inner groin, the adductors. Symmetry on the right and the left sides of the body. Gently, one last Apadasana, knees towards the chest, clasp a few inches below the knees. Find symmetry, spine lengthening. Reach those arms and the legs out. Good. For our Shavasana, our well-deserved Shavasana. With effort comes rest, and this is the Shavasana that you have earned. As you sink down, maybe you open up those palms, maybe you relax the feet, maybe nestle the shoulder blades towards the ground. Inner fire, tapas. as that continues to ignite that inner light in all of us, which represents namaste. Shine the light, be the light. Let everything go. Stay here 5, 10 minutes, however long you need, enjoying the many benefits.